Let me share a quiet little truth with you. Turning 70 isn't the beginning of decline. It's the beginning of something softer, richer, more sacred, if you let it be. You see, the world tells us that happiness fades with age, like colors left too long in the sun. But that's a myth. Happiness doesn't disappear. It simply changes shape. It becomes quieter, deeper, wiser, like a river that slows but runs stronger. And today, I want to invite you into a story most people never hear. The story of joyful women in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, who wake up with peace in their chest and go to bed with a smile behind their eyes. They're not chasing youth. They're not pretending things are perfect. Instead, they've built a rhythm, 12 simple things they do, not out of pressure or obligation, but out of love. Love for their day, love for the woman they've become, and love for life itself. Now, I'll be honest with you. My 60s weren't easy. My energy shifted. My world felt quieter. And some days I looked in the mirror and wondered, is the best already behind me? But something changed, not in one grand gesture, but in tiny, almost invisible ways, like dew forming on leaves at dawn. Small habits, gentle choices, simple joys, each one helping me find my way back to myself. So no, this video isn't about fake smiles or miracle cures. It's about real things, grounded in wisdom, backed by science, and wrapped in the beauty of daily life. These 12 habits have helped women like you and me feel emotionally steady, spiritually light, and deeply fulfilled. Whether you're 60 or 85, whether you feel full of life or quietly lost, there is something here for you. Some of these habits are so simple they'll make you chuckle. Others might stir something long buried. But all of them, they carry power. So if you're ready to feel more alive from the inside out, come closer. Let's begin this gentle journey together with the 12 daily habits of truly happy women over 70. Shall we start with the very first? They begin their day not with noise, but with something sacred, a morning ritual. Habit 1. They begin the day with a morning ritual. Happy women over 70 don't tumble into their mornings. They don't reach for their phones or rush into chores the moment their eyes flutter open. Instead, they begin their day the way one might light a candle in a dark room, gently, intentionally, and with reverence. Not perfection, not performance, but presence. Now let's clear something up right away. This isn't about some influencer's 5 a.m. green juice routine. There's no need for a yoga mat, a sunrise hike, or 30 minutes of guided breath work, unless that's your thing. For most of us, it's something simpler, more sacred. A quiet moment to say, I'm still here. A soft greeting to the new day. For me, it looks like this. I open my blinds slowly, as if unwrapping a gift. I stretch my hands toward the sky like branches waking up, and I whisper a little prayer into the stillness. Thank you, Lord, for one more sunrise. Help me carry it well. Some mornings I write down 3 intentions. Other mornings I just sit in silence with a warm cup of tea and let the birds sing what my heart can't quite say. Why does this small ritual matter? Because how we enter the day shapes how the day enters us. Science tells us a calming morning can lower cortisol, ease anxiety, and anchor the nervous system. But long before science said it, our grandmothers knew. A slow beginning is an act of kindness to the soul, especially at this stage of life, where our bodies may ache and the days sometimes blur. A morning ritual becomes a lifeline. It gives us rhythm, agency, and, most importantly, a sense of groundedness in a world that moves fast and forgets to notice us. So if you've been waking up feeling scattered or heavy, start small. Light a candle, stretch your fingers to the sky, place both hands on your heart and whisper something kind. You don't need 30 minutes. Sometimes just 3 minutes of peace is enough to remind you. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are here. And this morning, this very breath is a beginning. Let that truth carry you, because women who begin with presence tend to stay centered through the chaos. And from that stillness, they step out into the day, often into something as simple yet powerful as fresh air. Shall we talk about that next? Habit 2. They get fresh air. Every single day, there's something about morning air that feels like medicine. Before the world fills with noise, before your to-do list wakes up, there's that still, sacred moment when the breeze greets your skin like an old friend. The happiest women I know over 70 don't wait for perfect weather or grand outdoor plans. They don't need a mountain trail or a park bench with a view. They simply step outside or sit by an open window or lean into the sunlight that spills through the curtains. Why? Because fresh air reminds them they're alive. It whispers, "You're still here." And sometimes that's enough. There's science behind it, of course. Sunlight boosts serotonin, the feel-good chemical that helps stabilize your mood. Vitamin D supports your bones, your brain, your immune system. Even just 15 minutes of natural light can reduce anxiety, clear mental fog, and lift your energy. But beyond all that, there's something holy about breathing in the morning, as if each inhale is a quiet prayer, as if the sky itself is offering you a second chance. Some days I sit by my little garden with tea in hand and watch the birds flutter like scattered thoughts. Other mornings I walk to the end of my street and back. No rush, no destination, just motion. And on the hardest days, when even getting out of bed feels heavy, I crack the window open and let the wind kiss my face. That breeze says, "You're not forgotten. You're part of this world. Even now, even here." You don't need perfect health to feel the sky. You don't need strong legs to feel the air on your cheeks. Just a few breaths, a pause on the porch, a step into the light. And as your body wakes up in the softness of morning, your spirit often follows. Because happy women don't just breathe in oxygen, they breathe in life. And once that first breath stirs something inside, they do something beautiful with it. They stay curious. They keep learning. And that, my friend, is what we'll talk about next. Habit 3, they stay curious and keep learning. You can see it in their eyes, that quiet spark, that glimmer that says, "I'm still wondering, still growing." The happiest women I know over 70, they never stop being curious. They don't let age shrink their world. They stretch toward it like sunflowers following light. They ask questions. They seek out new ideas. They explore, not with urgency, but with wonder. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about earning a degree or reading thick textbooks, unless that brings you joy. It's about staying open, soft in spirit, awake in mind. Sometimes that means reading an article about something you've never heard of. Other times it's asking your granddaughter how her phone works and really listening. It might even mean learning how to grow lavender, bake something new, or use an app without feeling embarrassed. Curiosity is youth for the soul, and the brain, like any muscle, thrives when it's stretched. Neurologists will tell you, lifelong learning helps preserve memory, boost mood, and protect against cognitive decline. But women like us, we've known it all along. Because when we learn, we expand. Not just our knowledge, but our sense of possibility. I'll tell you a story. When I turned 72, I asked my granddaughter to teach me YouTube. Not just how to watch, but how to find what lit me up. Now I follow cooking shows, travel documentaries, even a woman my age teaching watercolor from her porch. It made the world feel big again. And more than that, it made me feel big again. You don't have to be tech savvy. You don't need a library card or a podcast subscription. Just ask yourself, what's one small thing I want to know more about today? That question is a doorway. Step through it, because curiosity doesn't just sharpen the mind, it softens the spirit. And something beautiful happens when a woman feels mentally alive. She walks taller. She dresses differently. She shows up, not just for the world, but for herself. And that brings us to the next quiet secret of joyful women over 70. They dress with intention. Habit 4, they dress with intention. There's a quiet kind of dignity in the way happy women over 70 get dressed. Not to impress, not to perform, but to honor the woman they've become. They don't reach into their closets with indifference. They choose their clothing the way one might choose a favorite poem. Carefully, lovingly, with attention to how it makes them feel. You see, they've learned that what you wear isn't just fabric. It's energy. It's memory. It's a mirror of how you see yourself, even if no one else is watching. On Sundays, I wear my pearl earrings, not for churchgoers or compliments, just for me. Even if I'm sitting alone in my living room watching the service on a screen, those pearls whisper, "This day matters. You matter." And on the days when my spirit feels a little dim, I reach for something bright. A scarf with sunflowers, a blouse that feels like spring. Not because I'm trying to look younger, but because I'm reminding myself that joy has color, and I deserve to wear it. Psychologists call it in-clothes cognition, the idea that clothing can shift our mood, our confidence, even the way we move through the day. But long before studies proved it, we already knew. When you dress with care, something inside you straightens. You walk steadier, you speak kinder, you take up space with quiet grace. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a new wardrobe. You don't need to follow fashion trends or copy anyone else. All you need to ask is, how do I want to feel today? Then choose something. Soft and cozy, light and fresh, bold and joyful, that reflects that feeling back to you. Let your outfit be a silent celebration of your presence. Because when we show up for ourselves, even in the smallest ways, the world starts to notice. But more importantly, we notice. And when we begin the day in something that makes us feel alive, we start noticing more than just clothing. We notice our words. Because here's something all happy women over 70 eventually learn. The voice we choose to speak with can shape the life we live. And that brings us gently into the next practice. They've learned to speak less about what's wrong and more about what's still right. Habit 5, they limit complaining. Here's a truth most happy women over 70 have quietly discovered. You can't hold gratitude and grumbling in the same breath. One will always soften the other. Now let's be honest. Aging isn't all roses. There are aches that weren't there before. People you miss. Dreams that didn't quite unfold the way you hoped. But the most joyful women I know don't dwell in what's broken. They've trained their minds to linger longer in what still works, what still shines, what still sings. Not because they've had it easy, but because they've learned a quiet, powerful truth. Complaining magnifies pain. Gratitude shrinks it. I remember a season when I started every phone call with a sigh. My knees hurt. The news is terrible. The world's upside down. One day, a dear friend gently said, "You know, I miss the way you used to talk about your garden." That landed like a pebble in a still pond. And the ripples? They changed me. I realized I had let my voice become an echo chamber of everything wrong. And in doing so, I'd slowly tuned out the gentle music of daily life, the bird outside my window, the warm coffee between my palms, the memory that made me smile. So I shifted. Not perfectly, not instantly, but day by day I started choosing where to place my attention. Psychologists call it negativity bias. Our brains are wired to notice the bad. But here's the miracle. We're not stuck there. With intention, we can rewire, retrain, reclaim. The next time you feel a complaint rising, pause and ask yourself, is this helping me heal or just helping me stew? Then look for the smallest bright thread. The robin you saw this morning, the neighbor who waved, the old song that played and took you back to your first slow dance. This doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means refusing to give your precious energy to things that won't change by speaking them aloud. When you quiet the noise of complaint, you begin to hear the quieter blessings underneath. And let me tell you, they've been there all along. And when your heart feels lighter, something else begins to stir. You feel ready to move, not to perform, not to compete, but to honor the body that's still showing up for you. Let's talk about that next. Habit 6, they move their body. Happy women over 70 aren't chasing six-pack abs. They're not trying to keep pace with gym ads or dance like they did at 25. But don't be fooled. These women move, and they move with purpose, with grace, with gratitude. Because somewhere along the way, they've learned a quiet truth. Motion is not punishment, it's praise. Praise for a body that has carried children and carried grief, that has bent, stretched, swollen, healed, and endured. A body that still wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm here, let's go again." They don't wait for motivation or a perfect health day. Some mornings it's a slow walk to the mailbox. Other days it's stretching in the kitchen while the kettle hums. And sometimes it's dancing barefoot to an old favorite song, just because it still makes their soul rise. You see, movement at this age isn't about performance. It's about presence. Science will tell you that daily movement improves balance, strengthens joints, boosts memory, reduces depression. But let's speak heart to heart. We move because we want to feel alive in our own skin. Because we want to keep reaching for what matters, without fear of falling. Some mornings I wake up stiff, and everything in me wants to stay still. But then I remember this body has stood beside me through storms. The least I can do is help it stay standing. So I stretch slowly, like unfolding a letter. I breathe deeply, like saying grace. I take one step, then another. Not fast, not far, just enough to remind myself. I am still in motion. I am still in partnership with this body. And you don't need fancy shoes or a gym membership. You don't even need to leave the house. You just need to begin. Roll your shoulders, lift your arms, move your legs from a chair. Rock gently from side to side as the music plays. Every bit counts. Every gentle gesture is a gift to your future self. Because when your body begins to feel awake, your heart often follows. And happy women know, movement isn't only physical. It opens something inside. A sense of agency, a quiet joy. And from that place, they turn to something even more vital, connection. Because the body may carry us, but it's our relationships that carry the rest. Let's talk about how they stay connected next. Habit 7, they connect with others daily. There's a kind of loneliness that sneaks in softly after 70. It doesn't knock, it doesn't shout. It just settles. In the empty chairs, in the long silences, in the way no one calls just to ask, "How was your lunch today?" But the happiest women I know, they don't let that silence take root. They reach, gently, bravely, intentionally, every single day. They send a voice note to an old friend. They wave to the mailman. They strike up a short chat at the pharmacy counter. Not because it's dramatic or deep, but because connection doesn't need to be loud to be life-saving. 1 minute of being seen, 1 moment of shared laughter or kindness can soften even the heaviest day. Some mornings I send a tiny message to my friend Martha. Sometimes it's a silly thought, sometimes it's a prayer. But what matters is this: she knows I'm thinking of her, and I know someone is thinking of me. That's all most of us really want, isn't it? To still belong somewhere. Studies show that isolation in older adults is linked to everything from heart disease to memory decline. But happy women aren't fighting loneliness with grand parties or busy calendars. They're doing something much quieter and far more powerful. They're practicing presence. A kind word at the grocery store. A phone call that starts with, "I don't need anything, I just missed your voice." A shared pot of tea with someone who understands the language of silence. Connection doesn't mean you have to be the life of the room. It means remembering you are still part of the human story. And when we open ourselves to others, however gently, our world stretches open too, and something beautiful happens. We remember ourselves, because connection with others leads us back to the deeper connection within, to the quiet spaces, to the still moments, to the beauty of simply being with ourselves, and that's where we're going next. Because happy women over 70 aren't afraid of solitude. They've made peace with it. They've turned it into nourishment. Let's talk about how they embrace food, not just for survival, but as a daily ritual of presence and intention. Habit 8, they embrace solitude and eat intentionally. Solitude can feel like a cold, quiet room if you're afraid of it, but the happiest women I know have made it their sanctuary. They no longer see silence as emptiness. They see it as space, a space to breathe, to reflect, to savor. And one of the ways they honor that space? Through food, not feasts, not restriction, but intention. They don't rush through meals while scrolling a screen. They don't eat standing over the sink or distracted by noise. They treat their food like a gift, because that's exactly what it is. For them, a meal is more than just nutrition. It's a pause, it's a prayer, it's a way to come home to themselves. They eat slowly, they taste deeply, They choose foods that don't just fill the stomach, but support the heart, the brain, the bones, and just as importantly, the spirit. You'll find color on their plates: bright greens, soft oranges, deep purples. You'll find warmth, broths, roasted roots, herbal teas. You'll find simplicity: a bowl of berries, a piece of dark bread with olive oil. Nothing fancy, just real, just kind. Because as we age, our bodies become more honest with us. They speak louder when something's missing. Digestion slows, bones thin, energy flickers, but intentional eating helps bring steadiness back. It helps us tune into what we truly need, not just in calories, but in care. I used to eat with one eye on the clock. Now I sit down. I breathe in the aroma. I hold my fork like a brush painting each bite into my day. And when I finish, I feel grounded, nourished, alive. You don't need a new diet. You don't need to count or restrict. Just ask, what does my body need today to feel loved? Sometimes the answer is soup. Sometimes it's a square of chocolate with afternoon tea. Sometimes it's simply slowing down enough to notice that you're hungry. Not just for food, but for peace. Because when we eat with intention, we remind ourselves that we are worthy of care. And from that small act of reverence, a new energy rises. An energy that often shows up not in food or silence, but in spirit. Because happy women over 70 don't just nourish their bodies, they nourish their souls. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Habit 9, they nourish their spirit. There's a kind of beauty that doesn't live on the surface. It lives in the pauses, in the quiet, in the way a woman over 70 closes her eyes, not to sleep, but to return home to herself. The happiest women I know have learned something that took me years to understand. A well-fed spirit is just as essential as a well-fed body. They don't just survive their days, they tend to their soul like a garden, gently, patiently, daily. For some, that nourishment comes through prayer, a whispered conversation with something greater. For others, it's in the rhythm of breath during meditation, or the soft pages of a book that makes their heart feel understood. Some find it while walking through trees, feeling the wind braid through their fingers. Others find it while painting with watercolors, or writing words no one else will ever read. Spirit doesn't need grand gestures, it needs presence, attention, a moment where nothing is demanded, only offered. For me, it's the first sip of tea before the sun is fully up. It's lighting a candle before I begin my day. It's placing my hand on my heart and saying, thank you, even now. Studies have shown that people with a strong sense of meaning, whether spiritual, creative, or communal, are more resilient, more content, and better equipped to face life's storms. But you don't need a study to tell you what you already feel deep down. When your spirit is tended, everything else feels a little lighter. You breathe easier. You smile softer. You carry peace like perfume. And the beautiful thing? It doesn't take much. 5 minutes of silence, one poem that speaks to your soul, a song that makes your eyes well up for no reason at all. Nourishing your spirit isn't indulgent, it's necessary. Because when you care for the invisible parts of yourself, you move through the world with a different kind of strength, one that doesn't shout, but shines. And from that strength, something gentle and powerful blooms, the willingness to release what weighs you down. That's what we'll talk about next. Because the happiest women over 70 know the secret to lightness is forgiveness. Habit 10, they practice forgiveness. Daily forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It isn't about excusing what hurt you. It's about choosing every single day to stop carrying what was never yours to hold forever. The happiest women I know over 70, they don't walk around with heavy hearts. They've lightened their load, not by pretending pain never happened, but by refusing to let it define the rest of their story. Because here's the quiet truth. Unforgiveness is a weight you wear inside your bones, and over time, it pulls your spirit down. But forgiveness, that's the soft art of letting go. Not all at once, not perfectly, but piece by piece, like letting sand slip through your fingers until your hands are free again. I used to carry something that happened years ago, a misunderstanding, a wound, a silence that never healed. And though the other person had long forgotten, I was still bleeding inside every time I remembered. Then one morning I sat alone, the sun just rising, and I whispered to no one in particular, I forgive them, and I forgive me. I didn't feel a lightning bolt, but I did feel something begin to shift, like a locked door slowly creaking open. And behind it, a room full of peace. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. It's the moment you choose to stop picking at old scabs and start letting the skin of your heart heal. Psychologists say forgiveness lowers stress, improves sleep, and reduces depression. But more than that, it gives you your energy back. It gives you space, room to breathe, room to grow. Start small. Forgive something tiny, a sharp word, a broken promise, a regret you've whispered to yourself too many times. You don't have to announce it. You don't even have to say it out loud. Just mean it a little, then mean it again tomorrow. Because forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a practice, a clearing, a quiet way of saying, I won't let this hurt be the loudest thing in my life anymore. And when your heart begins to feel light again, something beautiful happens. You find yourself looking outward, not with anger, but with purpose. And often the next impulse is simple, but sacred, to give joy, to give love, to give back. Let's talk about that next. Habit 11. They laugh on purpose. Laughter doesn't just happen to the happiest women over 70. They invite it. They make room for it. They go looking for it, like sunlight on a cloudy morning. Because somewhere along the way, they stopped waiting for life to be perfect before letting joy in. They laugh not because life is always funny, but because laughter lightens whatever life is carrying. You see, these women understand something sacred. Laughter is not a luxury, it's a survival skill. It softens sorrow. It interrupts the heaviness. It opens the window in a room that's been too quiet for too long. I know women who make it their daily ritual, just like tea or prayer. They start the day with an old comedy or a phone call to someone who still knows their laugh from decades ago. They keep a list of things that always make them giggle. They remember how to be silly, even when the world tells them to be solemn. Sometimes I call my friend just to share a ridiculous dream I had, or I rewatch a video of my grandson dancing like a chicken in the living room. And in those moments, I feel something rise up that no vitamin can give. Aliveness. Science will tell you laughter triggers endorphins, reduces stress hormones, improves immunity. But we don't laugh for the science. We laugh because we need to. Because when life feels like it's taking too much, laughter gives something back. You don't need a comedy club or a perfect mood. Sometimes all it takes is dancing with the dog, making funny faces in the mirror, or remembering that utterly embarrassing thing you said in 1973 that still makes you blush. Laughter is permission. Permission to be human. Permission to let go. Permission to feel joy, even in the middle of grief. So make it a practice. Not because you should, but because you can. Because when you laugh, your spirit opens. And joy doesn't just visit, it stays a while. And when that joy has filled your lungs, you'll find yourself whispering thanks. Not just for the laugh, but for the whole imperfect, beautiful day. And that leads us into the final habit, perhaps the most powerful of them all. Let's talk about the quiet, nightly ritual that turns an ordinary life into a sacred one. Gratitude. Habit 12. They end the day with gratitude. The happiest women I know don't let the day end without a whisper of thanks. Not because every day is easy, but because every day holds something worth remembering. Before their head touches the pillow, they pause, not to relive the worries, but to gather the light. A kind word from a neighbor, the smell of bread baking down the hall, a laugh that lingered longer than expected, a breeze that touched their face like a blessing. You see, gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about noticing what still feels good, what still shines, what still holds you. It's the gentle art of saying, I've made it through this day, and I found beauty along the way. Some women keep a journal by their bedside. Others simply close their eyes and speak 3 small thank yous into the dark. It doesn't have to be elaborate. What matters is the intention, the choosing, the noticing. Because what we notice grows. And the more we train our minds to see what's good, the more good we start to feel. Science tells us gratitude rewires the brain, improving sleep, easing anxiety, even strengthening the heart. But beyond the science is something quieter and far more sacred. Gratitude softens the soul. It humbles the ego, and it gives each day a sense of meaning, whether it was filled with triumph or simply quiet endurance. At night, I often write down just 3 things: a bird I saw, a memory that resurfaced, the comfort of my warm blanket. And somehow, no matter how heavy the day was, that list helps me sleep with a lighter heart. You don't need fancy journals or poetic words, just one small moment, one breath that says, I lived, I noticed, I'm thankful. And when you fall asleep in gratitude, you tend to wake up in peace. That's the secret. That's the rhythm. That's the quiet miracle of women who choose joy, day by day, habit by habit. So there you have them. 12 quiet choices that joyful women over 70 make every single day. Not to chase youth, not to impress anyone, but to honor the life they've built in the woman they've become. None of these habits require perfection. They don't demand money or perfect health or a busy calendar. They just ask for presence, gentleness, and a little courage to choose joy, even when it would be easier not to. Because happiness at this stage of life doesn't arrive like a gift on your doorstep. It's something you build, moment by moment. Cup of tea by morning walk, forgiveness by laugh. It's a daily devotion, quiet, simple, real. And here's the beautiful part. It's never too late to begin. Maybe tomorrow you'll start your day with intention instead of urgency. Maybe you'll open your window and let the breeze remind you that you're still part of this world. Maybe you'll call someone you love, or simply smile at your own reflection. Whatever you choose something, because one habit opens the door to another. And before you know it, you're not just getting through the day, you're living it with softness, strength, and grace. If this video stirred something in you, if it reminded you of your own power, your own beauty, your own joy waiting just beneath the surface, then I invite you to do one more thing. Like this video, share it with a woman who needs to hear this, and tell me in the comments, which habit will you begin with? I would truly love to hear your story. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for still choosing joy. Here's to your happiness, your health, and the gentle, beautiful journey ahead. You're not done yet, and what's coming next might be the richest season of all.